thank you for joining us on the Red Button. And here we are at one of the most iconic, beautiful sports venues in the world. It's the Lee Valley Velo Park, and this will host the UCI Track Cycling World Championships from now until Sunday night. We've had record ticket sales. The fans are flocking in, lured by the combined magnetism of Sir Bradley Wiggins and Mark Cavendish, both back on the track. Plus Olympic champions Jason Kenny, Philip Hines, Laura Trott, Jo Rousel-Shand, and let's not forget the most successful female sprinter of all time, Anna Meares of Australia. She will be here as well. It's wild and windy outside, but it's warm and toasty in here, and they're hoping for fast times on this track. Let's have a look at what's coming up for you this evening, because we'll be starting very shortly with the women's individual pursuit. No British interest in this race. Then at 7:20, the men's scratch race. That's a 22-man mass start. Chris Latham is in it for Great Britain. The women's team sprint medal races at 8:10. China and Russia are fighting it out for gold. And then at 8:20, we've got the men's team sprint. Holland and New Zealand in the gold medal race. With me here to spread his wisdom, to enjoy his excitement of the sport as well and share that, is Britain's most successful Olympian and cycling's most successful man. 7 medals at the Olympics, 6 of them gold, 11 world titles. So Chris Hoy, hello, welcome.
Thank you, great to be here.
Now, the British team, would it be fair to say they're on something of a recovery mission? We're used to them being so dominant, but recent years...
I think we're in a transitional phase, and I think that the team is coming into great form leading into Rio. This will be a massive test for them, a great opportunity to become world champion in front of a home crowd, but I think the inclusion of Bradley Wiggins, Mark Cavendish has really lifted the team, and you can see everybody starting to kind of get their tails up again and really be motivated by the Olympic Games.
The Brad and Cav show. It's very rock and roll, isn't it?
It is, but they're rock stars anyway, aren't they?
Yes.
They're great for the team, and I think in many ways they shoulder a lot of the burden of the pressure for the whole team, and they take so much focus from the media that the other riders in many ways can just get on with their job, hopefully, of winning medals.
You took quite a while to get in here to the velodrome, didn't you? Because you were bumping into so many people you know well. And as you walk around here, I mean, it is like walking around your hometown.
It is amazing, and it's all the team members from different nations. It's your old teammates, it's people, you know, staff, workers, all the kind of people that you spent the last 20 years of your life with, and it's great to be back again. I do miss it. I wish I was on that side of the fence as much as I enjoy being here, but it's lovely to be back in the velodrome, and so many great memories from here in particular. One
thing that surprised me, because I haven't done an event in any velodrome actually, the corporate entertainment down there's a whole load of tables with people quaffing champagne and cyclists warming up right next to them.
Yeah, it's unique, I think, and you know, obviously they're trying to create a great environment, a great atmosphere for the fans, and the riders kind of get squished into a corner, but it's great. And I think the track cycling as well is special, because you can watch the athletes from the moment they arrive in the track centre to the moment they finish, to the podium ceremony, to when they go home. You can see every single part of their preparation and their journey through the evening.
And on the way here I was thinking to myself, it can't possibly be as hot as the aquatic centre for the swim. Let me tell you, it is as hot as that.
It's very warm. The reason it's warm is that it basically makes the conditions quicker for the athletes. So the warmer the air, the less dense it is, the faster they'll move. Air pressure, that's the biggest resistive force in cycling, and you know, obviously you can't affect the ambient air pressure, but you can change the temperature inside the velodrome.
And that means that even when we're coming in through doors up on this level, they're waiting until there's an airlock before they open the door to not let any air from outside in.
That's also to try and maintain the temperature at an even, you know, 27 degrees or whatever it is in here. That means that if there's a time trial event like the team pursuit qualifying, it's the same conditions for the first team on the track to the last team, so it's a fair play for everybody.
It's going to be very noisy, and they are doing their best, the event organisers, to build up the anticipation, the atmosphere as well. There's a big countdown going on the big screens, and you can sense that everybody is getting revved up, that music quickening the heart rate as well. We've got masses to discuss over the next couple of hours, but live cycling is the priority. So we're going to go down there to the track for the women's individual pursuit, and our commentary team of Chris Boardman and Simon Brotherton. Good evening to you both.
Hello Claire, evening everyone. We're really looking forward to this one. No British interest though in the women's individual pursuit this time. It was a race won by Joanna Rousel, or Joanna Rousel-Shand as she is now, 2 years ago in Cali. But as a non-Olympic event, the British team have decided to leave it alone. We're looking here at shots of Annie Foreman-Mackey from Canada. She's up against Ruth Winder from the United States. This is the bronze medal ride. Interesting story. Annie Foreman-Mackey, the 24-year-old. She's a former swimmer. who only started cycling around 5 years ago, and here she is going for a medal in the World Championships. As for Ruth Winder, she was actually born in Yorkshire, but resides in California these days, races for the United States. She rode as a domestique for Mara Abbott when she won the Giro Rosa 3 years ago, so she rides to a very high level on the road as well. And Chris, based on what we saw earlier on today, do you feel we might have a close contest for this bronze?
Well, I think so. I mean, at the World Championships, you're never quite sure what's going to happen, but I would expect it to be pretty close between these two. That world record, too, is quite interesting, 3:22. I don't think we're going to get anybody close to that tonight, but it really is warming up here, so we may see some fast times for sure.
3,000 metres the distance, just over half a minute to go before the riders are underway. 12 laps of the track. Foreman Mackey of Canada will start in the home straight as the fastest of the two in the qualifying rides. She was part of the team pursuit squad of 6 or 7 riders. Her times were pretty good, so they decided to throw her into this individual event to see how she got on. Well, 12 laps now between these two for a bronze medal at the World Championships.
They're underway, and I think it will be a few laps before we really get to see who it is that's going to start to dominate this one. But they were close in qualifying, less than 2 seconds between them.
And just over a tenth in it at the end of the opening lap. Ruth Winder, just 22 years of age, 7th in the Pan American Games in the road race last year. And she is just over 0.2 of a second down in the early stages of this bronze medal ride.
Well, we'd expect to see that. Foreman Mackey was the faster in qualifying as well.
Well, the individual pursuit, of course, one of the blue ribbon long-standing events of track cycling. The British rider, the late Beryl Burton, the most decorated rider in the history of this event. 12 medals she won over the years in the women's individual pursuit, including 5 world titles. No British rider entered into this year's event.
Rebecca Romero winning the 2008 edition before it went out to the Olympic Games. Former rower, now triathlete, I believe.
So 7 laps to go over the line this time, and Foreman Mackey with nearly 3/4 of a second advantage.
Well, very close to her qualifying time, about 0.5 of a second slower than she was this morning in qualifying. But consistency is everything in this game. Winder got a little bit slower than this morning.
Well, Ruth Winder with some work to do here. With 5 laps to go over the line this time. Let's see whether the gap's coming down a bit, and the answer is no. It's gone out by 0.2 here, Chris.
Well, it's still close. It's going to fall on the order that they finished in this morning, but it's close enough that it wouldn't take much of a mistake for either rider to lose their pace. But at the moment they are pacing themselves very cautiously.
Foreman Mackey into the last kilometre, the last 4 laps of this. There was less than 1.5 seconds between them in terms of their times earlier today in the qualifying ride. What has Ruth Winder from the United States got left in the tank? Has she got enough to make a challenge here for this bronze medal? I think the answer is going to be no.
No, she seems to be losing ground consistently now. And I think she's actually in the sights of Foreman Mackey, almost in the same straights. If she looks up as she comes around, she can actually see her opponent.
Well, Foreman Mackey with just under 2 laps to go, and now as she goes round into the back straight, she just got a sighting of her opponent in front of her. That gives you a better indication of the distance between the pair of them, and Annie Foreman Mackey, I think, is a rider we'll be hearing more of from here on in. Team pursuit winner for Canada in Hong Kong at the World Cup meeting right at the start of the year, and now she's going to be an individual medalist. The first medal at these London 2016 World Championships will go to the bronze medal here now as she takes the gun. 3:36.055 the time. A comprehensive victory over the American Ruth Winder, and Canada take the medal ahead of the United States.
Well, just half a second slower than her qualifying time. So consistency so important in this event. I think she'll be happy with that. We expected a little bit more of a fight from Winder, but it wasn't to be. She got it all out this morning and really didn't have anything for this second ride.
The riders, a picture of focused concentration as they get out of the starter's gate, and never really under pressure during the race there.
No, not at all. Just eased away ever so carefully. Neither of them making any pacing errors, to be fair. Very evenly paced rides.
So there we are, confirmation of the result. Annie Foreman-Mackey taking the bronze medal in the women's individual pursuit. Sell-out crowd here at the Velodrome in London. They've sold over 50,000 tickets. They've sold more tickets for this than they did for the Olympic Games, actually, of course, because more seats are available to sell, because there are there's no Olympic family area, and
certainly
fewer media here. Certainly full up now. There's the defending champion from Australia, Rebecca Weisack, the 31-year-old. She's never even won a national title in Australia, so it was quite something for her to come through and to race in her first World Championship last year and to take the gold medal, and she's really backed it up here in getting into the final again, up against Małgorzata Wojtyra from Poland.
Well, I think that Weisack is the clear favourite here. She was well ahead in qualifying, over 3 seconds, and I expect a consistent ride from her. I don't think there's going to be any surprises. This could be her first world title, and a name I think we're going to be talking about for some time to come.
Rebecca Weisack from Geelong now bases herself in Canberra. She was third this year in the individual pursuit in the national championships in Australia, right at the start of the year, and yet here she is racing for the world title again in 15 seconds time. Wojtyra, by the way, national champion in the Omnium and the scratch race. Wojtyra, a rider who we also saw racing on these boards in the Olympic Games 4 years ago. She raced in the Omnium against Laura Trott and finished in 11th position, but she's older and more experienced now, 26 years of age, a regular on the world track scene and now in a world final.
Well, Wojtyra was very strong in the previous round towards the end of the race, but it was Weisack who really put in a strong start. So I think we're going to see that again. She was 1.2 seconds up on Wojtyra inside the first kilometre, so a strong starter, the Australian.
Very strong start, but being held at the moment by Wojtyra at just over 0.3 of a second. Australia sent most of their big guns over for this one. Just a couple of riders, I think, from the team pursuit squad who we might see in Rio who are not here. Everybody else is here for these World Championships, and Weisack, one of those leading the charge, although, as we mentioned before, the individual pursuit, not an individual event in the Olympic Games anymore.
Which gives the riders a problem, doesn't it? Because the Olympics is, you know, the dominant event every time it comes around. When you get to the World Championships, there's a clash between those Olympic events and riders wanting to stay in fresh for them. And so even though this is a world title, it sometimes doesn't attract the best names who are being held in reserve for that team event.
7 to go, and the gap is going up, and Rebecca Weisack is very much in control of this World Championship final.
Wojtyra is almost in sight now, and we've only covered 6 laps of this race, but she's storming ahead now. It was expected. Maybe young, but a classy rider.
Well, Rebecca Weisack is stomping all over this final. There's the angle that shows you how much she is gaining on her Polish opponent here. So all she has to do is stay composed here, presumably, Chris.
Well, once you have the opposition in sight, you have a reference point, and you know, you have a sense, of course, of your own effort, how hard you're trying, how far it is to go. You can forget looking at a coach in a ride like this. It's all about the opponent, and once you've got them there, you know what you have to do just to keep it pegged. So it's a big psychological boost.
And does it make, well, it's over 4 seconds now, so this final is, to all intents and purposes, over. Does it make you press on, or does it make you know that you can just hold the effort?
I think you know that what you've got to do, and then you can make a decision, an informed decision based on that. Most riders will get quite euphoric in the last 2 or 3 laps and really go after it. There's some advantage as well, some slipstreaming effect, even from this far out in such a controlled environment. So she'll just trying to be real in her opponent now and take that medal in style.
Well, so often World Championship finals are won by thousandths or hundredths of a second. They're really close, nail-biting affairs. This one is not so, and Rebecca Weisack has that rare luxury of being able to enjoy this for several laps, knowing that she is going to successfully defend her world title. Chris Boardman alongside me knows what this feeling is like. That's how he won the Olympic Games back in Barcelona in '92 when he actually caught his opponent. And Rebecca Weisack is closing in with every revolution of the pedals here in the closing stages of this individual pursuit final as she comes up to the line. 3:34.099. The time is irrelevant. It's about beating your opponent, and Wojciera from Poland on this occasion has been beaten by the better rider convincingly, and it is a first gold medal for Australia, who have started as they mean to go on. Gary Sutton, the coach there, will welcome Rebecca Weisack back off the apron of the track once she's taken a lap of honour, but the first gold of these World Championships have gone down under.
Interesting to watch the expressions on the support staff's face, actually, and I think it shows the pressure that they're under this year, that the Australians have just taken the first gold medal, and Gary Sutton looked like he was applauding a training ride there. So they've set their expectations very, very high. This is what they just expected the result to be here.
Yeah, more like a case of
one down, on we go.
Exactly, job done, let's move on and do the next one. But Weisack here, we see her going out of the gate. She was in control of this right from the first revolution of the pedals, wasn't she?
No, strong starter, part of the team pursuit team, of course, and she spent a lot of time working on this start, so important in the team event, and technically an excellent ride there.
So there we are, Claire. The first medals of these championships have been decided. Australia taking gold. I wonder whether that's a sign of things to come for the rest of the week. We shall see.
Thanks, Simon. Amazing shots there as well. That super slow-mo, Chris, of the calf muscles just expanding and contracting in that start. I mean, how, for a normal cyclist, how hard would it be to even start the bike in that gear?
Well, even for cyclists that maybe do time trials on the road that come and have a go at pursuiting on the track, they're quite surprised by that initial half rev, that first half rev. Basically, unless you really attack it, you wobble off and come straight down the track. It's like putting your bike in the biggest gear you have at the bottom of a hill at a set of traffic lights and trying to pull away quickly. It's not easy.
She's clearly very emotional about this, and defending the title is one thing, winning the first gold medal as well of these World Championships is another. The crowd very supportive because she was so dominant.
It's great to see, and you know, that's something that we're always talking about Rio, we're talking about the Olympics, but this is a World Championship. She's a world champion, and that it's great to see the emotion in the athletes' faces because it means so much when you're the champion of the world.
I liked the look of her helmet, can I say that? That was a very sleek sort of Super Mario design.
There was a bit of difference between the Polish rider and the Australian rider. It's, you know, you would think a helmet is a helmet, but when you get in the wind tunnel, they have, it's down to the individual athlete how it interacts with their riding position. So not every, you know, one rider's helmet wouldn't necessarily be effective on another rider. So it's, it's just like any bit of kit, it's part of the overall package.
How much of a difference can it make though?
Well, it's, when you win and lose, you know, I won the first world title by 1,000th of a second, and that could be a wrinkle in your skin suit, it could be a chin strap flapping down, it could be a slight waver off your racing line, it could be a hesitation at the start. Every single thing is important, and that's the marginal gains philosophy.
And obviously the power that she has, the approach that she has, her attitude, everything.
It's everything brought together, and that's why sport's so exciting, because you have all these different variables and everyone comes back together on one specific date once every year or once every 4 years, and when it can be that close, I mean, that wasn't a particularly close race, but when you get one that's fought out with, you know, a millimetre of difference, that's when it's really exciting.
We're going to have a very, very different race next, because the riders are out on the track just getting limbered up for the men's scratch race. We've got Chris Latham going in this for Great Britain, 22 of them. A mass start. I mean, I'm imagining this is rough as anything in terms of elbows.
It's a strategy race. You want to be in the right place at the right time. If you're at the back of the group when someone attacks the front, then that's when the splits happen. It's a tactical battle. You've got to have the strength as well. It could favour someone like Chris, who could potentially get away early on in a small group, or it could come together for a sprint at the end, and it's down to who has the speed.
And forgive my ignorance for this question, but how do they decide the lineup at the start, the grid, if you like?
It's not that important. They'll have a specific layout, but the first couple of laps it'll be neutralised, and then they'll fire the gun for the actual proper start of the race. So it's not like the start of a keirin or a shorter race where positioning is crucial. The first couple of laps will be about shuffling the pack a little bit, getting settled in, and you might see an attack early on, but usually it takes a few laps to bed in.
There's Chris Latham. Now tell us a bit about him.
Well, Chris is one of the new riders in the team. He wasn't around when I was competing, so I've only met him once, or a couple of times actually. One of the awesomely talented young riders coming through the academy program. This is his big chance to shine in front of a home crowd. I wouldn't be surprised if he was up there. He has the ability, clearly. You don't pull on a GB jersey unless you have the ability, and just to be inspired by the home crowd, who knows?
He's 22 years old, right? It's part of Team Wiggins, isn't he? And Bradley's sort of creating his legacy while he's still competing himself.
Yeah, amazing, really. And it's great that he's still in the team as well, inspiring others around him.
What are the rules in terms of interference? What could you get disqualified for in this?
Well,
presumably you can't.
Not a lot, really. You can
touch another rider.
You can't take your hands off the bars and physically grab people.
That's good.
You can use your elbows to make space for yourself. You won't see much of that at the moment. What will happen is it'll either split up and a group will go away, and the medals will be decided from a group of 5 or 6 or however many, or that'll happen, it'll come back together and there'll be one big massive bunch finish. That's when it gets a little bit scrappy. You want to be near the front with the last 2 or 3 laps to go. You don't want to be stuck at the back. However, the closer you are to the front, the harder work it is. So it's about conserving energy, using your own strategy and trying to employ it to its best effect.
Wow, I'm looking forward to this. The men's scratch race then. Let's rejoin Chris and Simon.
Thank you. Almost ready to go. Half the field, as you can see, start on the inside of the track. Chris Latham there for Great Britain. And the other riders start up on the fence at the top. 22 in this field, and as you'd expect, it's an excellent field. We have the defending champion, Lukas Liss, from Germany. In the field today, we have Elia Viviani from Team Sky as well. He's one to look out for. And we have others who have won medals in this event in the past, including Morgan Niesky from France, who won in 2009. He is in this field as well, along with the likes of Andreas Müller from Austria, Wim Strutinger from the Netherlands, and Chung King Lok, who won a medal in this event a couple of years ago. 4 of the riders' bikes have actually got onboard cameras, as you can see, including the defending champion, Lukas Liss. There's Glenn O'Shea from Australia, a 3-time world champion, including in the Omnium, and we are underway.
Well, Glenn O'Shea, he's been up and down form-wise. Interested to see how he goes today, actually. He was one of the dark horses for me, that's for sure. This event, as you've just seen, rolling start. They have to be all together when they come down. The gun goes if there's no visible gaps. The commissar's happy. They're underway. Often this event will start like this. They'll trundle along, raising the speed, ride around the bottom. They're just waiting for somebody to launch the first attack. But that won't happen, really, until they all swing up the track and leave some space for people to start to get on with it.
We just had a little look at Ignacio Prado from Mexico riding on the front, Jake Doering as well for the United States, and Jean Spies from South Africa. Riders just doing short turns. Felix English from Ireland in the green there, briefly on the front. Remember, it was in this race that Ireland had a rare and much celebrated gold medal in Minsk in 2013, and now the racing's really underway, and it's Glenn O'Shea from Australia and Morgan Niesky, the Frenchman, who's right on his wheel.
Well, gaps starting to appear straight away as everybody looks around to see who's going to chase. The first breakaway is the hardest one to get going because everybody's got fresh legs. There's nothing in this event if you don't get with the front group, so lots of impetus to chase, but it's a hard one to get away.
The pale blue there, that is the colour of Kazakhstan, and Robert Ganayev who is getting it in the early break. But Niski, the Frenchman, former winner of this world title, finds himself at the front now, as Chris Latham from Great Britain leads the chase.
Full-on aerodynamic helmet here. Really, all the teams have started to cotton on to the importance of aerodynamics and really worked hard on it over the last 2 Olympic cycles. The French have got the athletes and the tactical skill. In a race like this, you cannot stay away on your own. There's just way too much firepower behind you. So he was hoping then, really, the Frenchman, that somebody would come and join him, but you can only stay out there for a few seconds before you've got to make a choice, because once you're tired, you cannot react.
Ignacio Prado, Claudio Imhoff from Switzerland at the front of the race at the moment. Roman Gladish from Ukraine also showing his face at the front end of the race. Just looking back through the field, about 3/4 of the way back is where Chris Latham from Great Britain is. What do we expect perhaps from him, Chris, in a race like this tonight?
Well, I think he's just got to look, really, not overextend himself, not trying to do too much physically, but look for those opportunities. And one of those is developing right now. I mean, that's good working group here. They've only got a 30-40 metre lead. O'Shea's spotted the danger and is going across. But as soon as you see them all swing up like that, it says this group is not working well together, and it's not going to stay away. You've got to, everybody's got to commit to getting that gap. As we go to our onboard camera, and you get an idea of what it looks like to be inside this race here.
So Prado on the back of a sizable lead group at the moment. Chris Latham there just coming through to the front at the moment. Just turned 22 from Bolton, but like most of the others, bases himself in Manchester these days. Has been on the academy programme since the back end of 2012, after he'd won 2 national titles as a junior.
The race is effectively working as 2 halves here, isn't it? As the riders are just waiting and waiting for somebody to give them something to work with. It was actually Latham who just rolled around the bottom there to see if he could get something going, but it's a little bit too early. 48 laps still remaining, 47 when they come around this time.
Ignacio Prado keeps showing towards the front as well in the predominantly green and white of Mexico, and Viviani has a little look on the inside. He's already won a stage in Dubai on the road this year, a Giro d'Italia stage winner as well last season, and a real threat in a race like this.
Well, I expect to see some big things from him this year, riding very cannily, not just riding hard on the front, but trying to spark it off before dropping back into the group and into shelter, just keeping the pace high. And the way it's going at the moment, I mean, normally this event would finish in a mass sprint, but you know, it's looking very much like it could break up.
Chris Latham sharing the work at the front at the moment with Roman Gladish from Ukraine. A little gap opening up here as well. Not quite a quarter of a lap. Moreno de Pau of Belgium has spotted the danger and has decided to try and close that gap, along with the defending champion Lucas List from Germany.
Well, they're working very, very well together, and that's the main thing. 2 is a small number. There is time for the other riders to get on terms here, but I think they could find themselves very quickly in an extremely strong group of 4.
And with 43 laps to go, this race has well and truly started.
I think this could be the move, even though it's early stages. There's 4 riders here fully committed to getting away. They've got some serious daylight. Again, O'Shea finds himself on the back foot, got the form but missed the move, trying to get across. But if these 4 keep the pressure on and don't swing up, then it's going to be a difficult one to get across to.
Well, Adrian Teklinski is the rider from Poland who's trying to close the gap, and O'Shea as well is chasing after him. That's Teklinski who's giving up the chase, but O'Shea most certainly isn't behind him. These 4 at the front are really dangerous, mainly because the defending champion is there, and de Pau as well in the blue, the Belgian rider. His form is absolutely outstanding at the moment. He's won 5 Belgian national titles already this year.
Well, O'Shea is now stopped. He's about 40 metres off the back, and he's realised that he's really in trouble now. He can't close this on his own. We are starting to see some moving about and displacement in that front group, but by and large they're all taking their turns. The speed is not dropping. They've got half a lap on a peloton that is chasing hard, but that half a lap is an awful lot of room to play with.
That's the defending champion Lucas List on the back, the 24-year-old.
I think
also
this is the
former
move,
European Omnium champion. Sorry, Chris.
No, sorry, I think this is the move. I mean, it's quite unusual at such an early stage, but the pace was so high, and we can see behind that they're swinging up now and going, well, who's going to chase? And every time they do that, this group of four is grabbing another 10 metres, and now they're in the home straight. They're into the slipstream of the peloton, and I think they're going to close and actually make the lap gain. The question will be if anybody else can slip off the front before they do that and also get that gain.
Well, Hadchechki from the Czech Republic, who you're not looking at the moment, is trying to do that, but he's dying 1,000 deaths out there as we go back with the leaders once more. Liss, De Pauw, Gladish and Latham are the leaders on the track with 35 laps to go now, and they are closing in on the peloton. They can see Glenn O'Shea, who's almost sitting up there at the back now. He realises that his opportunity of getting towards the front of this race has been and gone. It's about timing your effort, and O'Shea looks so good early on. He looks so lively and sprightly, but he's mistimed it and he's missed the big move here, and now they join on the back of the peloton.
Well, those leaders now, they know that they've got a very, very good shot at a medal. Only one of them's going to lose out if they can stop this race breaking up, because all the experienced riders know that just as they make the junction, that is the time to attack. It's exactly what's happened, and try to get themselves back on terms.
So it's Prado, Hadchechki, Mora, Czech Republic, Mexico and Spain leading the chase. But as you say, Chris, this is a very dangerous time for those who gain the lap, because of course your natural inclination is to try and just catch your breath and get that second wind and recover from your previous effort, and that's precisely why everybody else sticks the boot in if possible.
Well, De Pauw from Belgium did exactly the right thing. He got straight to the front there, injected some pace, swung up, but he kept the momentum of this group. There's a sizable group up the front, which is actually good for the four escapees, because it's so big, it's unlikely they'll work well together. So behind, they've got a good chance of getting back on terms. But this race is absolutely in pieces at the moment. I wouldn't like to be a commissaire having to call the finish, that's for sure.
Or indeed a commentator.
Or indeed a commentator. I was actually thinking that. I'll be leaving it to you, the closing stages of this event. But it's split in half now, and our four escapees, and of course Chris Latham in there, need to start to inject some pace, or they're going to see another half dozen riders get back on terms, which is looking more and more likely as this race goes on.
I'm just having a look at the group here, this chasing group. I can see Ignacio Prado, Sebastian Mora, Rui Oliveira from Portugal is there, Hadchechki in the predominantly blue kit with the stripes down the middle of his back from the Czech Republic. Mora there on the front, there's Hadchechki. Prado, number 50 there is Raman Ramanau of Belarus. Rui Oliveira there just hanging on to the back of that group at the moment, and all in red in the middle of the group is Chung King Lok.
Well, they're going to do it. They're going to make the junction as we speak, with 26 laps still remaining, and that is a real shame for Chris Latham, because he created a real opportunity there, but that group got themselves back on term. They did form a temporary alliance, those 7, and now the race is much wider.
It's a very experienced Dutchman, Wim Strotinga, who's on the front now with Alex Frame, a young rider from New Zealand, and Chris Latham is having a go again here for Great Britain.
Well, this is a courageous attempt. He's left it a bit late, but if he can get across to those 2, it's certainly a courageous ride here. He wants a medal.
Well, this is key, isn't it? Because Niski is up there as well. The Frenchman has now been overtaken by the other 2, and Latham's closing the gap. This is his big effort, isn't it, to try and win a medal in this?
He will struggle to recover from this with just 23 laps to go if it doesn't work out. All those escapees have sat up, so it was all for naught. Well, can he get himself some company here with the New Zealander? He knows he'll be racing for, well, just to get back on terms. No, it's all over. Any hesitation in this scratch race, and the moves just get swamped. So Chris Latham, he needs to stay in the wheels now, recover, and pretty much got to wait until that final sprint now.
Viviani from Italy goes to the front, opens a small gap. He's followed by Sebastian Mora, who is the European scratch race champion, and closing the gap on them is the rider from Belarus, Raman Ramanao. And joining that group to try and make it a 4 again is Ignacio Prado from Mexico, who's been there or thereabouts in terms of breakaways, but has never quite latched on. It's
a pretty depressing situation, demoralising in the race when you know that you're making all this big effort and all you're going to get for it, even if you gain a lap, is just to get back on terms. And you have to remember that the race is still moving along at such a clip that you get yourself back on terms, less than 20 laps remaining, and then you have to recover for the sprint. So probably the wisest thing to do now, with just a couple of minutes of racing left, is to sit in, recover and wait for that last kilometre.
So we have a good number of riders who are a lap ahead, about half the field at the moment. Prado, Ramanao, Chung King-Lok, Imhoff, De Pauw, Hachetsky, Mora, Latham, Liss, Oliveira and Gladish. They are all a lap up here with 18, now 17 laps to go. And we have a 4-rider leading group on the track. Viviani among that group, and Mora from Spain, who's already a lap up on half the field, is in this group, as is the rider in the red there, Chung King-Lok.
Well, those are the two big winners here who are chasing the world title. They've read this race well. They waited. They let Chris Latham go out and track that group down, to hunt it down, and then countered straight away. It didn't look like it was going to go. It eased off the front. It sort of coalesced into this group of 5. But 2 medals to be contested out of that group, and it's not going to come back now. The spirit of the group behind has been largely broken, I think.
So Chung King-Lok and Prado of Mexico and Mora of Spain are the 3 who really stand to gain here from this scenario, already being a lap up on many of the others in the field.
But 3.5 minutes of racing still to go. It sounds like not much time at all, but when you're really suffering, it's a long way. This groups of 5 is well established. There's some gaps forming in it, that's for sure, but they're keeping that momentum behind. They've got a chase group of 5 as well, but they're looking to be going at pretty much the same pace. So it's status quo, really, the remnants of the bunch. And Chris Latham is trying to inject some pace into that, but it isn't going to be enough. There's not the cohesion to pull these groups back.
So of the leading group of 5, Viviani, the only one who's a lap down.
Well, of that leading group, I think that's almost certain. That is where the medals are going to come from. In fact, they're going to make the junction with the main group. Almost certainly, they're in the same straight now.
Being chased hard here by Glenn O'Shea, by Claudio Imhoff.
Latham going again under the underneath, attacking just as the others make the junction at the back, but he's being chased straight away there.
Lucas Liss, the German rider, whose world title would seem to be disappearing out of the window here. Alex Frame from New Zealand chases him, but it's good to see Latham again trying to animate the race and get involved in the action rather than just let it go on around him and follow the wheels. He's been a real animator of this scratch race.
Well, it's a commitment time for him. I mean, 8 laps to go as they come around. You can't do this and the final sprint. He has to make a decision now. Try and rely on the others hesitating. Shall I chase it? Shall I wait for the sprint? Because at this point, with 2 minutes of racing remaining, you can't do both. You have to choose your strategy.
Well, he is one of a few riders who are now 1 lap down. Prado, Ramanao, Chung King-Lok and Mora are the 4 riders in the lead in terms of trying to get the medals now. Hachechki and Imhoff have also been given the same lap as those at the front, according to the computer here, as we now have half a dozen laps to go.
Well, it's an exciting final, hard for us to get a grip on, but it looks clear.
It's Sebastian Mora from Spain, the European scratch race champion, riding off the front with Chris Latham, who looks to be tiring. He's really grovelling there on the inside of the track, just clinging on. Viviani's now really starting to stretch his legs, closing the gap on Latham there, you can see. And on Viviani's wheel is Prado, who knows he's got a great chance here now in this World Championship. And Lucas Liss from Germany is trying to close in as well. But Sebastian Mora has really got the beat between his teeth here. He wants gold.
Well, it's a very unusual move to be in his position and to attack so far out. All the others hesitated. He is alone, and there's a lot of people who've got a reason to chase him behind, but they've hesitated, and I think that's enough. 3 laps remaining in this race. He's got half a lap's lead. They're accelerating behind, but he's got such a cushion, it could well be enough here.
Well, the rally rider looks as if he's got every chance now. Won the Rotterdam 6 earlier this winter with Albert Torres. He's going really well, and I think that this rider's got gold medal written on it now with just 2 laps to go. Less than that, he's going to take the bell any moment now. There we are, Sebastian Mora, 250 metres to go. The gold medal is going to be in the bag for Spain here. The European champion is going to be able to add the world title to his collection now, and he's got time to look around. He's got time to raise his fist in the air as he crosses the line and takes gold for Spain. Prado comes up to the line. Third over the line was Liss. Fourth was Niski, and fifth was Oliveira as they sprinted towards the line in the wake of that man there, Sebastian Mora.
Well, Mora, that was such a gutsy move there. He went to very, very early, considering he was alone. Very confident, but so powerful. He almost gained a lap on the peloton. Quite a remarkable finish from him. The strongest rider throughout. Read it well. Almost crashed there.
Well, I think that Prado of Mexico will end up with the silver, Imhoff of Switzerland the bronze, with Ramanau from Belarus in 4th place, Chung King Lok from Hong Kong in 5th, Hachecki of the Czech Republic in 6th, and the defending champion Lucas Liss, the best of the rest, in 7th place. But no medal, no joy for Chris Latham of Great Britain, but we certainly knew he was in the race.
We did. He rode well early in that race, forced the move and got himself into the action. We certainly did know he was there, and I think we can expect more from him in the future.
It's about strength, it's about form, Claire, and it's also about timing your effort to perfection and using that strength and form in a canny way, and that's exactly what Sebastian Mora of Spain has done. He has won the World Scratch Race title.
Yeah, many congratulations to Mora, to Spain as well. But I was saying to Chris Hoy throughout that, how do you know whether the riders around you are a lap behind or with you? And it just seems you've got to really be thinking throughout it.
It's very difficult, and a lot of the time you're actually using the scoreboard, so you'll be looking up and seeing which riders are lapped, which one's on the same lap as you. You'll be communicating with your coach, who will try to get some information to you. But a lot of the time, you know, it's guesswork, and it's incredible. But even sitting here with the whole track in view, trying to keep up with what's happening, it's not easy.
Chris Latham was absolutely determined to make his mark on that race, whether it's because it's here in front of a home crowd or he just wants to make sure he's, you know, being considered by the team management. Yeah, but he was so bold, wasn't he?
I think he acquitted himself really well there. You know, for a young rider, first championships in front of a home crowd, he did a fantastic job. He was, as Simon said, he was an animator. He made things happen. He initiated that break in the first instance, and it was a gutsy ride.
This was his first attack here, and that really, you know, he dragged along good riders with him. So, and actually, you can see the gold medalist. You can see Mora back there in the gold and red of Spain. They're keeping their eye. They know Latham's not he's not just doing this out of nothing.
No, exactly. And I think anyone wearing a GB jersey is going to be followed closely at these championships. But I think that was a great performance from Chris. I think he should be proud of that. And yeah, I hope he enjoyed it.
How much does it hurt at the end of a race like that?
Well, it's been a while since I did a scratch race, but it is an absolutely brutal race. These guys are on the limit, and you can see when the race really stretches out in a big long line, and then eventually it's like the elastic breaks, and you know, that's when someone can get away. But it's an incredibly tough, 15-20 minutes of racing. Yeah,
and sometimes he had company when he attacked, sometimes he had to do it on his own, and that is significantly harder.
It's about 30% energy you save if you're sitting on the wheel of a rider in front. So, you know, you're trying to initiate attacks, you're trying to create a move that could be successful, but at the same time you're trying to save energy, and it's, you know, it's as much about your placement on the track, your placement within the bunch, as it is about physical strength.
And in terms of using the track, when you see the riders go up very high at the ends, is it tough to do that?
No, you would do that to maintain momentum. So you've put a big effort in, you don't want to waste that potential energy, so you gain height on the track to sustain that effort, but to slow down and to slot in behind another rider. So it's a way of preventing yourself from sitting in the front the whole way, wasting energy, pushing your own air.
Now that's not an Olympic event, is it? The men's scratch race.
No, it's not.
So what could Latham do if he was on the plane to?
Well, the Omnium is an event that has the scratch race within it, and I think longer term potentially Team Pursuit. He's that kind of build. He's a tall, rangy athlete, and he has a turn of pace. Clearly, you need to have that power for Team Pursuit. But he's, I think, in terms of Rio, you know, we have to see how Cab gets on in the Omnium first. But you know, who knows?
Well, talking of the men's Team Pursuit, the team qualified fastest of all this morning for tomorrow's semi-finals. This team includes Sir Bradley Wiggins. And how did he look to you, Chris Wiggo?
Well, I think he was calm as cool as a cucumber, very calm out there, and I think he performed very well. I wonder if he had a few butterflies, you know, his first major championship under his belt now, or the first round of it. But in terms of the team performance, fantastic.
Let's have a word with Chris Boardman, because obviously this is his field of expertise. How did you think the British team looked overall, Chris?
Well, I think the legs were there. That's the main thing. You saw some real power. I think the control wasn't, and that's why we saw some head shaking right at the end of the event. Bradley looked in great shape. That was the big revelation, really, that we needed to know after his time on the road. He was very, very strong, but he wasn't necessarily employed very well. We had some weaker riders in there, and he could have gone longer, but I think they'll use that. I was surprised, I have to say, that even though it was ragged, they qualified first fastest, so the engines are there.
And in terms of Bradley's role within this team, I would imagine it's not just what he does on the track that's important. His aura brings something extra, doesn't it?
Well, it's a bit of both, really. I mean, he's got the legs to really drive it, and that gives you respect. You know, he doesn't just talk the talk, he does literally walk the walk. He can drive. He's put weight on for this event. I think what they need to do now, I think what he's got from this morning's ride, if anything, is massive confidence to know that he can do longer turns to support the other guys and get the best out of them. The Australians looked extremely smooth, and they were only slightly slower. So the British team, although they're the fastest, they're really going to have to clean this up to win.
In an ideal world, Chris, how close should you be? And we're looking at the British team there. We'll see the Australian team in a second. And you tell me why you thought Australia looked better.
Well, we saw fractures in the British team. We saw gaps appearing. We saw they lost a rider. It was really messy, and I think they'd be the first to say that. I think it was really exciting that the firepower that's the hardest thing to get. Technique they can clean up. The Aussies were a lot smoother. They were working hard, but they had it under control. You can see the expressions on the face there. You can see that they're riding to a schedule. They're watching the coach. They're nice and smooth. You're not seeing any sort of fractures or gaps appearing within the team, and they're happy. You know, they came off the track, and the only gap we got there was like, okay, it was a lap to go. I can peel off now. I don't want to slow the team down. So it was a little bit more measured. I think for the Brits, what they can take from this is that they've seen what the Australians have got now. They know they've got some big leaps forward to make themselves. So we're going to see an incredible final. Yeah,
it should be fantastic. All that to look forward to. Chris Hoy, can I ask you about the effects on your legs as you do get into your later 30s, as Brad is now? What starts to become difficult? Is it recovery? What is it?
Yeah, it's recovery. I mean, obviously you gain experience and you learn about yourself and how you respond to training and rest, but for me, certainly it was recovery. You know, I wasn't bouncing back as quickly after training. I was picking up injuries more easily. But the biggest thing for Brad, it's that a change is almost as good as a rest for him. Coming away from the Tour de France, the huge mileage into this very different environment, and as Chris mentioned, he's gained muscle mass, he's gained weight, he no longer has to be 67 kilos for a 6'2" or 6'3" tall bloke.
I think he's put on about 2 stone, but one of the main reasons that he has come back to the track is the return to the coaching setup of Heiko Salzwiedel, and Jill Douglas has been beavering away down there in the middle of the velodrome, and she caught up with Heiko.
Well, Heiko, you've qualified fastest in the team pursuit. You couldn't really ask for more at this stage.
No, I'm totally happy about this. I have to say, we're watching the other teams, we're watching the times of the other teams, and we actually backed off from our original plan. We wanted to go a bit faster, but at the end of the day, it's not about times here, it's about winning. And from that point of view, having the best qualification time, that gives us a good feeling.
One or two of the teams, the top teams, looked a little bit ragged, dropped riders here as well. Is that because they're all riding to the limit at the moment?
I'm not really sure what's happening with the other teams. I only know that we have a good depth of riders, and we probably will use a different lineup for tomorrow.
You say you could perhaps go faster, yet Burt came off the back. He looked tired, and they were a little bit ragged towards the end. What do you need to do to make sure we've got a full team going for the full 4,000?
Yeah, I think the riders have also been a bit nervous. Yeah, so Stephen Burke, he missed the turn, so he went out early, too early actually. That was a bit of a problem what we had, but John Dibney picked up the speed again in a very good manner. Owen Dull lacked a bit confidence. He could do one turn more, and then we would be up to speed. At the end of the day, we came down from the track pretty relaxed, the riders, and everybody said there's more in the tank.
And of course, Bradley Wiggins, we've seen him set the hour record on here. 4K's nothing to him. He looked as though he could have ridden off. He looked very strong.
Bradley's incredible. Also, having said this, he was not that special in training. He was just one out of 4 or 5 or 6 team members, and he delivered solid performance in training. That's why we selected him here. But it was not a guaranteed thing, Bradley and nobody else. It was Bradley and the other guys who went to the starting line today. So they've been on a quite equal level.
Heiko Salzwiedel, who is absolutely crucial to that whole pursuit team training and the individuals. And why is he so special? What's he got?
Experience. You know, he's gone to Russia, to Denmark, to obviously with the Germans initially back in the 80s or 90s, I think, and he has experience of gelling a whole group of riders together to get the very best out of them, dealing with different types of athletes, different types of personality, and so far I think he's doing a great job. Yeah,
and it seems to be working for Wigo, as they say. We are nearing our first medal ceremony of this UCI Track Cycling World Championships. It's for the women's individual pursuit, and let's hand over to Simon Brotherson.
Thank you, and we're just watching Ruth Winder, Yorkshire-born, beaten in the race for the bronze medal by
trying to claim
Annie
this medal there.
Foreman-Mackey, and Foreman-Mackey receiving the bronze. What a talent she is as well. I think we'll see a lot more racing from her in the years to come. A team pursuit winner in the World Cup over the winter, and now a medalist as an individual as well. And Gosia Wojtyra from Poland, a double national champion, and she won a scratch race in Manchester actually in the World Cup meeting there a couple of years ago. But here's the champion for the 2nd year running, Rebecca Weisack from Australia. Who, not surprisingly, looks absolutely thrilled to bits with the outcome today. It was a brilliant ride from her, an emotional win. This is only the 2nd time she's raced at the World Championship. She's just into her 30s now, and she's won a rainbow jersey both times, and there aren't many riders who can say that.
Well, to take the first jersey for your country as well, that's quite something. The opening medal of this Worlds, the first for the Australian team. A confident and strong-looking team, it has to be said. And it's great to see somebody really appreciating, isn't it, the fact that it means a lot. It's not an Olympic discipline, but it's a world discipline. That's a world champion's jersey she's wearing there. Always fun to watch.
And the gold medal around the neck, placed there by the president of the UCI, Brian Cookson. The celebrations can start now for Rebecca Weisack.
I think we do need to make sure that we hammer home that Yorkshire connection. We are going to get something out of this event.
Unlike poor old Ruth Winder, who ended up just outside the medals in 4th place on the night. But Australia, again, laying down an early marker in these championships. It is an anthem we have heard on so many occasions in recent years, as well as our own, of course.
Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of Australia.
And the realisation that she is a two-time world champion has just hit home for Rebecca Weisack. The thumbs up there from one of the all-time greats, watching from the team pen in the track centre, Anna Mears. All smiles on the podium. Gold for Australia, silver for Poland, and bronze for Canada. It turned out to be a straightforward win for her in the final in the end last year. Jennifer Valente of the United States provided the opposition. This time it was Gosia Wojtyra from Poland. Won a couple of silver medals in the European Championships over the years as well in the team pursuit. Back in 2012 and 2013, she won a bronze in the European Omnium Championships as well a few years back, where she has another medal for the collection. But still, Wojtyra on the left of your picture, still to make that final step up onto the top of the podium. But that's the picture that will no doubt be on the front of the Age or the Sydney Morning Herald. Tomorrow, Australia's first gold of these championships.
Setting a new standard in accessories as well, with the nail varnish and the earrings and everything, making sure it screams Australia. Good for them. We're going to move from the pursuit to sprinting, because it seems a big issue, Chris, with the British team. Jess Varnish and Katie Marchant, they're a relatively recent pairing in the women's team sprint. They needed to finish at least 2 places ahead of France this morning to qualify for Rio. It didn't happen.
It didn't. It was very disappointing. They were clearly disappointed with it. A 5th place finish wasn't a bad result in terms of a world championship, but it wasn't enough to qualify. And the question is, why were they in that position to start off with? You know, they should really have had more points coming into these championships, not relying on a medal position or a top 4 position to guarantee selection. Frustration across the board, really. You know, it's a tough one for Jess in particular, who was here almost 4 years ago at the Olympic Games, and they were obviously relegated in the semi-final. So it's a tough one for her to swallow.
And for Katie Marchant, she's only recently transferred, hasn't she, from being a heptathlete. She's a great friend of Jess Ennis-Hill. She was coached by Tony Minicello. She's still a very exciting prospect. Great
prospect, and you know, not just for the team sprint, but for the individual sprint, the Kieran as well. She has a great future ahead of her, but it's all about Rio, and it's the frustration that they're not going to be representing. There'll be no representation from GB at the Games.
So a fine performance in its own right, but not enough to qualify for the Olympics. Jess and Katie were obviously disappointed when Jill caught up with them afterwards.
Well, Jess, to put in a personal best as a duo and not make that qualification, it must be very bitter feeling at the moment, bittersweet.
Completely bitter, to be honest. Obviously, I think both of us, we're really, you know, both competitive athletes. We'd rather go out there not knowing there was something we personally could have done better. You know, we're 5th in the world, yet we're not qualified for the Olympics. We've been playing catch-up for 2 years. After decisions that are above us, bad luck, and yeah, we're not qualified, but at the end of the day, we're 5th in the world. I don't really know how that sort of qualification process works, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's particularly galling to finish above other teams that will be going to the Olympics, Katie.
Yeah, as Jess just said, 5th in the world and not to be going to the Olympics is a massive disappointment, if you want to call it that, but we literally did everything that we could, and we have given absolutely everything, and we've given a performance that is well capable of being at the Olympics. So, as Jess said, people above us have made the complications for us and put us in the situation that we're in now.
well. It's pretty strong stuff there from Katie and from Jess, Chris. Have they got a point? Have management let them down?
I think when you step off the track after a massive disappointment like they've just experienced, you're going to be emotional. It's a tough one. You could say, well, if they'd won tonight, they would be in the Olympics. You know, if they had improved, if they'd gone a little bit quicker, they had the power within, you know, in their own hands to do it. If they'd been 800ths of a second quicker, they would have been fourth, and they would have enough points. They would have had the margin over the French team, and they'd beat the Olympic Games. But having said that, it was still a great performance, and that's the frustration that you can see in their faces, that they felt like they had done the very best they could. They were the fifth best team in the world, but they won't be in one of those, I think it is 12 teams that will be representing the Olympics.
Well, of course, we must give the right to reply to the GB Cycling Technical Director, Shane Sutton, and he's been speaking to Jill.
I get the sense that Jess Varnish felt a little bit frustrated at how things have gone over the last couple of years.
Yeah, Jess is probably more frustrated with her own performances over the last couple of years, I'd say. And, you know, emotions are running high. They've done a brilliant ride today, PB by a mile. Jess showed a little bit of a form of, you know, a few years ago, but unfortunately it wasn't enough, and I can't praise them for their effort enough, to be honest.
Looking back at the whole qualification process, were mistakes made?
Oh no, I think, you know, there's a long journey. I think New Zealand set us back with a disqualification there. But ultimately, you know, collectively as a group, if you remove Becky James from that group, who's been out injured, we just weren't good enough. Put your hand up, accept it, and we need to move on now to the individual events.
It's really frustrating, though, to finish 5th in qualifying. You're clearly good enough to be at the Olympics, but the girls will not get the chance to race.
Yeah, it's a real shame, because also the gap had closed quite narrow now on them medal rides, and we were right there, and it's a shame 5 months out. I know we could have turned it around, and the girls have applied themselves well, but we're not going to get the opportunity. We can't think about that, and we need to just move on.
Well, plenty more to discuss on that subject, of course, but it's time now for the medal ceremony for the men's scratch race won by Sebastian Mora of Spain.
And the rainbow jersey, as you can see, just going around the Spaniard's neck. A European scratch race champion is now the world champion as well. Races for the British rally squad. And enjoys riding on the road as well as the track. He won the road time trial title of Catalunya last year. Well, he's gone 1 or 2 steps better this time with the rainbow jersey.
It was a strong performance too, tactically as well as physically. He had that covered, really. He was, I think he showed himself to be the best rider in the race today.
There's Ignacio Prado from Mexico, just 21 years of age, the Pan American Games scratch race champion, won that in Toronto last summer, and the road race champion of Mexico as well from last year. So another one who mixes the 2 disciplines of road and track. Claudio Imhoff is the other rider who finished with the bronze medal. We're now about to hear the national anthem of Spain. Sebastian Mora then, the world scratch race champion. 60 laps of the track in 16 minutes and 36 seconds. What does that mean? Well, it means an average speed of 54.2 kilometres an hour. When Chris Boardman saw that, Claire, he winced.
I bet he did. I think most people would as well. Oh, But it's so exciting. I can't believe that a race. Oh, I was just putting down my notes there because I was writing down medalists for later in the week, so I have to. You're
a professional.
For my reference.
You're a pro, aren't you?
Yeah, I love that race. Just going back to the women's team sprint, and Shane Sutton said it there in his interview. The loss of Becky James. I mean, she's back. She's racing in the Kieran. We'll see her in action tomorrow, I hope. But she really has been a massive loss to that setup.
And I think Shane and the whole team were delighted when Vicky Pendleton had retired. Becky just seemed to step into her shoes, and she became double world champion, 4 medals. I don't think any athlete from our team has done that before. 4 medals in 1 championship in Belarus in 2013. They were rubbing their hands together thinking we've got the replacement. And then she had this terrible injury with her knee and has been off the bike for about 6 months at least, I think, and has recently come back in. She is in line to ride the Kieran, I think, this week. And it's whether or not she's going to come back in. That's not to say that Katie Marchant isn't doing a great job. She is. But it's just an example of you have a really strong squad of riders. Vicky Williamson had a terrible crash, a matter of weeks ago in Belgium, I think it was, or Rotterdam. And all of a sudden your squad is depleted, and that strength and depth is gone.
Yeah, you mentioned Victoria Pendleton there. She's going to be joining us later on. She just rode her first winner, overjumped today on Pasha de Boulder at Wincanton, so we'll be talking to her about that. She's also working here for 5 Live. Now for the men, 2 of whom teamed up with you to win Olympic gold in this very velodrome. An incredibly fast start here, from the fastest starter you think in the world, from Philip Hines, who's here with Jason Kenny and also with Callum Skinner.
It was an absolutely phenomenal lap from Phil. I think he was almost 2/10 clear of the second place first lap. You can see the gap that's opened up there. That's not always a bad thing, but Jason just let the elastic stretch a bit too far, and you can see the big gaps there. Gaps are fine as long as you close them at the end of the lap, and there was still 2 or 3 lengths there, which is wasted time. Callum spent 2.5, almost 3 laps on his own, which is it's versus the Australians. You can see them there tucked in nicely. Yeah. And the Aussies will pull it back over this last lap. The good thing is, that the positive thing to take from this is that with that first lap, that amazing start with Phil, what he can do, he can almost temper that a little bit by using a bigger gear, and that'll give him greater delivery speed at the end of the lap, and that should help Jason not only get on, but give him a faster second lap, and hopefully for Callum Skinner too.
They finished 6th in the end, so we're not going to see them in the fight for medals.
No, this is more a work in progress. They've been looking to try and replace themselves from the Olympics in London.
Not I suppose, yes, they've been looking to replace you.
And it's the same position really we were in 4 years before that, when Jamie Staff, who was our start man, he retired, and we struggled until the very last moment. Phil came through and came to form with a matter of 2 or 3 weeks to go before London, and that could happen again. All will be forgiven and forgotten if we can turn it around, and Callum or Matt Crafton or Lewis Oliver can produce the goods in Rio.
Well, let's hear from the team. They spoke afterwards to Jim.
Well, Philip, that was a storming first lap. How did it feel out there?
Yeah, it felt pretty fast. Was a PB for me, fastest ever standing lap on sea level. So really happy with myself, and of course the team. I think we really coming together, and Callum did a really good job. Hanging on the 70 was brilliant, really.
It did look a little bit ragged. I think probably because you set off at such a searing pace.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good sign for the Olympics, and got a few tactics in the back, and pretty sure Callum will be the fastest man 3 in the world, and it's looking good for Rio.
And Jason, you obviously had to try and hang on to his wheel. Not an easy thing when he's in that kind of form.
No, it's not. No. Yeah, I feel like we let him down a bit, to be honest, because he put us comfortably in the lead after a lap, and yeah, we just weren't ready for that really. But at least we got the first piece of the puzzle, I suppose, for the Olympics. Hopefully now we can build on Phil's start and put it all together.
And is that genuinely how you look upon it now? You think, actually, if we have got the constituent parts, we just need to actually lay them out at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. We went quite well, really, considering we were nowhere near each other for most of the race. So, yeah, if we get together, then I think we've got the components to go quite a bit faster.
Yeah, Callum, you had it all to do there. Just, as I said, a little bit ragged, a little bit of space between the 3 of you over that first lap and second lap. Just how tough was it in Man 3?
Yeah, it's 100% the whole way. I think Jason's been a bit harsh on himself there. I think realistically speaking, at the moment we definitely have the best man 1 in the world, and we've probably got the best man 2 in the world. And I'm the last piece in the puzzle. So, but I think we're getting there. Through the season we did okay, and we won the World Cup for the season overall. And this is 2 paces better than we managed last year. So a few more places and a bit more training, and we're definitely running for a medal at Rio.
And when you look at the way the top teams are split now, there's just such a such tiny margins between being top of the pile and being outside the medals.
Yeah, I think that's part of what makes the event exciting, and it definitely gave us a run for our money. I think at some points we were questioning our own Olympic qualification because everyone is so close together. But as I say, my main focus is to chase these boys, and these boys' main focus is probably to chase the opposition, and I'll try and hold on.
There's a great spectre of Chris Hoy hanging over this velodrome, of course, where he was so successful 4 years ago, and as a Scot stepping into that man 3 position, does it slightly overawe you?
I'm not sure. We've had a few other guys have a go in the position beforehand. So at the moment I'm chasing what Cian O'Malley used to do. But yeah, it's if anything, to be compared to Chris is just an honour. So if I can try and emulate a bit of that success, then we're on to a winner.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, guys.
So no medal for them at these World Championships, but as they say, there is still hope for a medal in Rio, and Chris has just been doing his maths and...
well, they were only 0.02 of a second off third place. And, we talk about the tiny margins of victory and defeat, and a little bit of luck, just literally a fraction. If Jason had managed to get a little bit closer, or Callum, they'd be in the medals, and we'd be saying what a fantastic performance it was.
And there's, 5 months now to make that leap. And do you see in Callum Skinner somebody who can latch onto the other two and be right there with them?
Absolutely, and I think that it's a lot of it's confidence. It's ability for Phil in training to replicate that kind of pace. So the guys are ready for it.
Yes.
And when it comes to race day, it's not that he pulled it out of the bag. He has been going very well in training, but there's something about race day that for man 1 it just kind of draws out a little bit extra. And
the adrenaline's pumping, and you're
and it's a horrible feeling when you see that wheel in front of you disappear, and you think, oh my, this is going to be a long ride by myself. So I think once Callum gets the confidence, and they'll be doing race replications and training, they'll be doing all the preparation, I believe they'll be ready for it. Whether it's Callum or whether it's Matt or Lewis, who knows? Certainly Callum has the ability and the potential to do it.
Let's hear from the head coach now, Ian Dye.
Again, still this conundrum of how to get somebody to fill the boots of Chris Hoy. It sounds easy to say, but man 1, we had a tremendous opening lap. Jason Kenny was on it. And Callum Skinner's a very talented cyclist, but how are we going to make that jump?
Yeah, Callum's still a young guy, and if you look at Chris, who won his first World Championships back in 2002 at the age of 26, Callum's still got quite a few years to go to even get to that point. So we're not, we're trying to do the best we possibly can across the team performance there. And if you look at the result today, it's separated by thousands. And as you say, with elements like Phil's opening lap, for example, it still gives us a lot to be pleased with there. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be back in that position. You want to be in the hunt for the medals, and we're so close to that now. I'm actually pretty confident after seeing that today that we can be in the hunt come Rio, and perhaps that's the most important thing to take away from that.
Overall, though, we need more sprinters. And today, Chris Hoy, you announced a joint initiative with UK Sport, with the English Institute of Sport, and with British Cycling to find more sprinting performers. And I'm deliberately not using the word talent there, sprinting talent, because you don't believe in talent.
Well, I think talent is a word that can be misconstrued. I think it's about potential. Do you have the physical potential to be good at a certain sport? And we're looking for athletes. It's called Discover Your Power, is the name of the program, similar to the Sporting Giants program that Helen Glover was famously discovered through. And it's trying to find athletes between the age of 15 and 21 who potentially have that explosive power, that change of pace.
And how do you know if you've got it?
Well, I think if you were a kid at primary school and you were good in the 100 metres or the 60-metre dash, or if you could jump, a vertical jump higher than your friends, if you had just that little bit of explosive power, it could be somebody in a team sport now who's pretty good but maybe fancies an individual challenge. You've got to have the mental toughness, you've got to have that ability to focus on a goal, work towards it. But if you think you have any of that, you can go to the UK Sport website and you can sign up. And who knows, we could be discussing, in 4 years' time in Tokyo, someone that's come to the program.
Most of all, you've got to want to work, because you've got to train hard and you've got to keep pushing. Right, we come to medals races again. The women's team sprint, and this for the bronze medal is Australia against Germany. Let's rejoin Chris Boardman and Simon Brotherton.
And what a race this promises to be as well. So much experience out on the track. Both of these duos have been 3-time world champions in this particular event. Germany, Miriam Welter and Christina Vogel won the Olympic Games gold medal on this very track 4 years ago. And on the opposite side of the track, Australia, the great Anna Mears, an 11-time world champion, lines up with Stephanie Morton. Morton, who won a Paralympic gold as well on the tandem. But this could easily have been the final itself in terms of the quality of the riders we're watching here.
Yeah, incredible experience and well-seasoned teams that know each other well, ridden together many, many times. And it's almost surprising that this isn't the final, to be honest. It shows that the times they are changing. Anna Meares has retired, took some time out, and found that she still had more to give, came back for the racing. So, and I think we'll see her on an upward trajectory between here and Rio 2.
There's Anna Meares. She will lead throughout the first lap. It's Meares and Miriam Velter going head-to-head. Anna Meares going for what would be a 26th World Championship medal. And Meares has Morton closing in on her back wheel, and Christina Vogel has got some ground to make up here with Miriam Velter giving it everything on this first lap as they cross the line. And it is Australia who are marginally ahead now, and Steph Morton takes up the running for Australia. It's Christina Vogel, the world sprint champion, going for Germany. Less than half a lap to go. Here they come up towards the line. Who's going to get it? And it is Germany who take the bronze medal. Christina Vogel pulls it out of the bag with a superb second lap to claim the bronze and edge out Australia. 32.740 is the time for the bronze medal. Australia 32.871.
Well, I think Morton there made something of an error as she didn't quite have the confidence to really leave a gap so she could be closing at the changeover point and get that extra speed before going into her turn. And I think if she'd left a gap, that could have made all the difference. The German duo, well, they know each other well, had the confidence, left a good 20 metres and really closed towards that changeover point. But Morton was almost on top of Meares and sort of travelling at the same speed. She wasn't really using that acceleration, and I think that's the difference in partnerships. They knew each other well.
Well, these two riders, Velter and Vogel, have raced alongside each other for so many times. Their experience is so deep. They've won 10 world titles between the pair of them, as well as that Olympic gold medal. And delight for Christina Vogel and Miriam Velter.
Great ride by them. I'll be interested to hear Sir Chris Hoy's analysis of that event.
And the German duo were the world champions in 2012, 13 and 14. Knocked off their perch by those riders there. China, the Chinese, of course, but they finished with the silver in the Olympic Games. They actually finished first in the race for gold, but were disqualified for a technical infringement on their changeover, which they felt very hard done by about. They felt as if they were done out of a gold medal.
Well, that's where all the passion's coming from for this year, and it's showing in their performances. The best way, of course, to get your revenge is to go out there and get even, and that's what they intend to do.
This is a repeat of last year's final. The defending champions China taking on Russia. Gong Jinji from China, Zhong Chanxi, and for Russia it's Daria Shmeleva and Anastasia Voinova. 2 laps of the track to determine the world champion, and the Russian rider going out of the gate. Shmeleva ending up, as you can see, on the deck, and they will have to do it again.
Well, we'll have to wait just for the replay to see exactly what happened there, but it was
it wheel spin, or did the gate not let the bike go in time?
No, she was out of the gate, but then there was like a wheel slip that caused her to go sideways. It doesn't take much. Let's have a look at the replay. Launches the weight forward, and real wheel spin there. Well, that was as if the gate might have been holding the wheel slightly off the boards. I'm not sure, but very, very curious that. Not her fault at all. A completely legitimate start. I think what would be quite concerning in that situation to know what caused it, to make sure it isn't going to happen again. Really knock your confidence, I think.
Psychologically, not an easy scenario to deal with either, is it? You build up for a World Championship final, you're so focused, and then that happens.
Well, she's holding her wrist now, so perhaps there is a little bit of damage, and this event decided, as we've already seen, by thousandths, if not hundredths of a second. So that could be a bit of a problem for them. Okay, the bike's going straight back to the gates now, set up immediately. She's shaking that wrist. Needs to put that behind her if she possibly can. Very unusual scenario, that. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that. It's normally if the gate was holding the bike slightly off the ground, but she was already out of the gate when the wheel was still sliding.
So the inevitable delay before they will try and race again. It's a young pairing here for Russia, a really good one. But Shmileva there, just 21 years of age. Voinova, 23. She has already won a medal of each colour at the World Championships, including the gold medal in the 500-metre time trial last year. She's a 5-time European champion as well. Well, that wheel spin was really burning some rubber, wasn't that, just as he was trying to get out of the gate.
I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that. See, the coach also not confident. He hasn't found a reason, so he's not confident it isn't going to happen again. And, they're now waiting. Chinese bikes coming to the line, being set up in the gate. Everybody's making sure the tyres are clean now, taking off any excess dust.
Shmileva now back on the bike, and on the inside for China, who will lead for the first lap, Gong Jinji, defending the world title. She is finished second 3 times already in this event in the World Championships over the years. Experienced rider at 29 years of age.
Dave LeGroyce there, former sprint champion himself, setting up the gate.
Song Chan-Chi on the outside with just half a minute to go until the race is rerun. Shmileva just regaining her composure here.
Been sitting in the gate for quite a long time now. Not ideal for the sprinters. It'll be difficult for her to put that behind her, but that's part of this game, to be able to deal with the mental stress as well as the physical punishment that they have to undergo.
The World Championship final is underway in the women's team sprint. Russia and China battling for supremacy in this event for the 2nd year running. Gong Jinji and Daria Shmileva leading the way on the first lap as they take the bell, and it's China who are 1/10 of a second down. Russia with their noses in front here. Zhong Chan-Chi trying to claw back that little fraction of time against Anastasia Voinova. Can Voinova bring it home? No, it is gold to China. They successfully defend their title, and Zhong Chan-Chi with a stupendous second lap makes sure that China are the world champions again, and for the 2nd year in a row it is silver for Russia.
Well, the Russians got off the mark well, that's for sure, but were struggling to find the pace over that second lap. The Chinese pair rode it beautifully, and you could see a real good changeover by the Chinese. Real pace carried into that second lap.
Well, we've seen good form from Zhong this year as well. She has already won the Asian Championship sprint title and the 500-metre time trial crown. The start here made by Gong Jinji. Good, clean start for China. They were behind at the end of the first lap, but no panic. And Zhong Chan-Chi had the speed in her legs to make sure that they were able to retain their crown. Not much in it, Chris, but then there never is there, in a race like this? I mean, this event, as Chris Hoy would know better than anyone, it is basically decided at the top level in terms of the medals, effectively by the blinking of an eye, isn't it?
Well, quicker than that, I would have thought, but it is... I think that's why people really can empathise with it and enjoy watching it, because they know that years of work go into something, that can be decided, that is decided in hundredths and thousands of seconds, and that's what makes it all the more special, I think, particularly to come to a live venue like this and just watch it unfold.
So gold to China, silver for Russia, and the bronze to the Olympic champions, Germany.
Incredibly close, dramatic as well. And joining myself and Chris Hoy, another rider who knows all about how tight margins can be, Victoria Pendleton, who won 9 world titles too. 2 of them you were thinking in team sprint?
Maybe just one.
Or maybe one.
Sprint. Yeah,
not sure.
Reed, yeah.
2 gold medals in the Olympics as well, most definitely. Let's just have a look again at that start and the Daria Shemeleva of Russia. What happened here?
She just, when she launched out of the gate, her back wheel just spun, and as a consequence, she didn't get any purchase on that first revolution. So she realised she had no power, and
How many chances do you get? I mean, because also the thing is that her fault, or is it a malfunction of a kit?
That was her fault. It was a fraction early launch, and by doing that, her body was so far forward there was no weight over the back wheel, and that's why she spun the back wheel. And she fell off there to get a restart. That's what you do if there's a problem at the start. You get 2 shots, so the next time if there's a false start, then you lose the race. So it puts pressure on you. But you know, I have to say though, the second place rider Voinova here.
Now the Russians started very well, but China came back just in the last lap. I understand there may be some sort of inquiry.
I mean, if you look at the Russians there, the second place rider, all she had to do was just throttle back coming into the last 2 corners and then run at the first place rider. But instead she got right onto the wheel, then gained height, which I've never seen before at this level, and basically killed her run. She would have had far more momentum just to hang back, time it right, and rush at the rider in front.
I'm hearing that China may be disqualified. We don't know what for yet, but there is a big inquiry. And we will give you more when we hear it.
Oh no, it's not that back straight camera, is it? Oh no. Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
I didn't want to remind you of that at all, because actually what I want to do is say congratulations, because today Victoria Pendleton won her first race over jumps. She went out, made all the running on Pasha de Polder, which meant that coming down to the last fence, you could basically enjoy it, clear the last fence, which is you've got to do before you can enjoy it. You won by 29 lengths, and this was a fabulous moment for you, because that really was a massive step up from what happened at Fakenham.
Yes, I'm so disappointed with the Fakenham result. And when I saw the steward's camera and I realised my foot had been kicked out, I was like, there's nothing I can do about that.
We'll talk about it more in a moment. After this, this is the bronze medal race for the men's team sprint.
And it's France against Germany. France over the years 11-time winners and the defending champions here, up against Germany, who were the champions in 2013 and have finished on the podium in each of the last 3 years. Riding on the front for Germany in the first lap was René Enders. Down to the last 2, and it's Kevin Chiraud of France on the front at the moment.
Not a great start for the Ventry, that's for sure. They were just queuing up behind them, but they've got some ground to make up, but they're doing it.
Less than a tenth of a second between them here. It's all going to come down to the final lap between these 2. It's really, really close. Who's got that little bit extra to take it on the line? And it is Germany. Germany who take it by 0.041 of a second. So the bronze medal goes to Germany. France edged out of the medals, and what a stunning effort that was on the final lap there by Max Niederlach for Germany.
Well, Borgia left them 0.3 of a second behind after that opening lap, which really was quite something. Some ground to make up, so they did very, very well to get back on terms there, and the Germans had to defend. They weren't as strong in the middle, but they really did finish it well. Tucked onto the wheel in 3rd place, getting plenty of shelter. Man 2 closing into the slipstream, clean changeover.
So a really good ride there from Germany. Germany and France, 2 nations who are always there or thereabouts in the team sprint, although both, of course, have been outdone when it comes to the Olympic Games in the last 2 times, as Joachim Eilers crossing the line, and Germany winning the bronze medal in this event. News from the women's final, confirmation that China have been relegated. As we get ready for the men's gold medal race, China have been relegated for an illegal changeover. So the gold will go to Russia, and China at the moment are still coming up as being in second place.
Well, we'll bring that news to you when we get it. We did actually get to see some footage while we were in the studio. We got a side-on shot, and there was a clear overlap of wheels before that changeover zone. So it was a perfectly justified and pretty clear-cut relegation. We hope we'll be able to bring that replay to you later. But now it's back to the men.
And what a final this promises to be. New Zealand, the world champions of a couple of years ago, the champions of the Commonwealth, Eddie Dawkins, Ethan Mitchell and Sam Webster. Against the Netherlands, Hugo Haak, Jeffrey Hoogland and Niels van Hoenedaal. The Dutch looking to get in on the act. The European champions in the team sprint from last year, from the championships held in Grenchen.
Well, they're keeping the New Zealanders waiting. They're all set up, ready to go, the New Zealand 3. And the team from the Netherlands has yet to even get one of their bikes up to the line. So not ideal, this. I could be surprised if the New Zealand didn't pull away from the line soon. They're just having a bit of an issue with the gates, making sure it's properly stable. Didn't want a repeat of what we saw to the Russian team in the women's event. They're still not fully happy here. It's a bit unfair to hold.
They'll have to let them go,
3.
won't they, from the gate, and let them roll around the track, surely.
I think the communication's going across the track now. But, no bikes being set up on the Dutch side of the track. They're just not quite happy with that.
And now the New Zealanders are being told that they can roll away and take a slow and steady lap as the adjustments are made to the gate on the other side of the track.
They're waiting for a technician to come and check. But they've spotted something that's not right here.
So nerve-jangling moments for these riders, as if they weren't already ahead of this final. The New Zealand trio includes the Commonwealth Sprint champion Sam Webster, whose form has shown to be really good coming into these championships. Won the national sprint title in New Zealand in the first part of the year. Ethan Mitchell in there as well, a world champion from a couple of years ago as part of this trio, and he's won a couple of silver medals at World Championship level in the team sprint too. And Eddie Dawkins, New Zealand's male cyclist of the year, as was announced recently. Very young Dutch team here. Haak is the old man of the squad at 24. Now they finished second in Cali in the World Cup in the team sprint earlier in the winter. Hoogland's just 22 years of age, a triple European champion in the sprint, the kilo and the team sprint. And van Hoenedaal, 22 as well, part of the European Championship winning trio last year. And finally, hopefully, they've sorted that gate out. Let's hope there's no issue with it at all.
Everybody seems happy at the moment.
And now it's the Kiwis who've got half a lap to go before they're back in their starting positions. So it's the Dutch riders' turn to wait.
Well, having an endurance background, I always find it remarkable watching the sprint events, and particularly this one, the team sprint, where events are decided on such small margins. Years of work go into this, and this is all part of it. This is not an irregular occurrence. There's often small problems that cause hitches at the start, and the riders have got to be able to cope with this kind of pressure, cope with false starts, with things being a little bit delayed and glitched. All part of it. Can you cope with the pressure of the situation and know that you can still deliver the absolute ride of your life?
Well, Ethan Mitchell is the last rider to get onto the bike, but of course he in some respects is the most important one, because he's the one who's held up by the starter's gate. He will lead for that opening lap, and the 25-year-old is now in and almost ready to go.
Well, the clock starts when the bike is secured in the gate. Whether the other riders are ready or not, that's the one that matters. So there's even a strategy around how the bikes are placed into the gate and which rider goes to the line first and when they're strapped in. All carefully rehearsed again and again and again. timing everything in this event, as we'll see as they launch themselves out the gate, timing their mass to be able to move it forward before the gate is even opened in anticipation to get that extra few hundredths of a second.
The race for gold in the men's team sprint. 3 laps to glory. New Zealand against the Netherlands. New Zealand winners 2 years ago. Can they do it again? Ethan Mitchell right on the front for them, and on the leading rider on the opening lap for the Dutch is Niels van Toornedal. Here they come at the end of the first lap, and it's the Netherlands who lead it just.
Beautiful changeover by the New Zealand 3, that's for sure. Timed absolutely perfectly.
All to play for here now as they take the bell, and New Zealand are being beaten at the moment, but it's really, really close. You can't get anything between them. Eddie Dawkins leading the way now for New Zealand, giving it absolutely everything he's got. Here they come, up towards the line, and New Zealand take it. They are world champions. What a ride by Eddie Dawkins on that third and final lap. And New Zealand Cyclist of the Year delivers for his team to claim the gold. They were behind all the way until it really mattered on that final lap, and New Zealand picked the Netherlands for gold.
Well, it was a close race until they went into that final lap, but that was such a strong ride. 2/10 of a second between them in the end, and in this event, that's a lot of speed. It really is a long distance. It's a big gap for the team sprint event.
But Chris, clearly they're a good trio. They're the world champions again, but they're a trio who still have a lot of youth on their side, and they know each other really well. This is a settled lineup for New Zealand. This is something that Britain has struggled to really find since Sir Chris Hoy left.
Yeah, and it means, well, what we've seen already in this competition today is that every man counts, and it sounds like a cliche. That fast start is something you've got to have. You've got to have somebody to finish. I mean, Dawkins really was the man of the match here, wasn't he?
Well, New Zealand had a start that was good enough to keep them very much in the final. They had a solid middle portion as well, and they had an excellent rider to finish it off and make sure that he put the icing on the top and secured their world title. Then gold to New Zealand, silver for the Netherlands, and the bronze to Germany.
We will be back for more reflection on that. Congratulations to New Zealand, but let us clear up the women's team sprint, because we had a false start first of all for Russia, a restart. We thought China won the gold medal, then we heard the commissaires were having a look at it. Chris Hoy and Victoria Pendleton, talk me why China have been relegated.
There's a zone in which you can change over at the end of each lap, or in the end of the first lap in the women's team sprint. The first rider must cross that first line before they initiate the move off the line. And if you watch the video, you'll see that the first rider deviated from her line, so she's on the black line just now, and you'll see a white line that she cannot come off her line until she's crossed it. So the onus entirely was on the first rider here to go through that first line before. She's already moving up now, moving up, she's at the red line, and the judges decided that that was initiation of her change, and therefore they were disqualified or relegated.
It's terribly narrow margins though, isn't it, Victoria?
I mean, yes, it's less than a blink of an eye. You can't even demonstrate how quick your reaction has to be. I mean, even watching it in slow motion there, you can see that it's just a split second. And, you know, they're really pushing, they've got their heads down, they're trying to give it 100%. They have to in this event, and it's easily done. I mean, I know all too well.
Yes, indeed. And actually, China have cut it fine before now, haven't they?
The Olympic final.
Yeah.
They won the Olympic final and they were relegated. You know, and you think they'd have learned a lesson by now, but as Vicky said, it's a fraction, and you know, personally, I think you're better off playing it safe. You don't gain much from doing that, but you can lose it all. So, you know, I would always make sure the first rider crosses the line 100% and then bails out.
No such drama in the men's team sprint, except for the way the race panned out and how tight it was again, and in the end, what a display from New Zealand.
Phenomenal, yeah. They lost the world title last year, but they're such a cohesive unit, and I think that's what Chris was saying on the commentary, that they maybe don't have an outstanding individual. Of course, Dawkins' last lap was great, but as a team, they were just so tight, and you can see, look how technically perfect they are there. Holland were up all the way into the last lap, and then Dawkins just continued that momentum and brought them home for gold.
It's such an exciting thing to watch, and it's so hard watching it live. It's so hard to tell who's ahead. But you were saying earlier, you can glance up at the screen, really?
Not in this.
No, I was going to say, come on.
At the end of the lap, when you finish, that's the first thing you do.
Yeah.
You react, or if you're last, if you're the third lap, you react from the crowd's noise. But you look at the board to see when your split is, to see if you're up or down. And in the team pursuit, you might have a little glance at the board. Certainly the scratch race you would.
So far today we've had gold medals for Australia, for Spain, for New Zealand, and obviously for Russia, because China got relegated. So 4 different nations. It's very the power spread is very broad.
It is indeed, and it's quite, I think, as it's just getting started, we'll see how it pans over the next few days, but it's interesting to see everybody ramping it up. It's an Olympic year. Everyone's going to be bringing everything they have here because they need to qualify, and it's not so straightforward. Not everyone gets a shot to go to the Olympics, so every nation is trying to grab every single place they can to take a full team along, because everyone wants to be in Rio.
And I know you're busy now doing other things and hoping to ride at the Cheltenham Festival, decision to be made on Monday, but your win today will certainly put you in, I would say, in quite a strong position for that to be a yes. But Victoria, having got here, I would imagine one of the first things you heard was that Britain had not qualified for the women's team sprint. What's your reaction to that? It was, you'd have been very close to those riders.
Yeah, the first thing I thought is I'd really like to go and speak to Jess, because I love her dearly and we've been through a lot together, and our experience at the Olympics in London was tough. So a lot of emotion. I think a lot of people asking a lot of difficult questions. A tough time, and I feel very sad that they won't get a chance to ride the team sprint at the Olympics, because I really do think they have got the right ingredients there, and they could find a very successful team, but unfortunately they're not going to get a chance. It breaks my heart.
Well, talking of them, and they finished 5th best, but not sadly good enough to go to the Olympics. Let's go to the medal ceremony now for the women's team sprint and rejoin Simon.
Thank you, Claire. And it is going to be a bronze this time for Germany, for Miriam Welter there on the left of your picture. And Christina Vogel, who is one of the most charismatic riders on the world track scene. She really does get the crowd on her side. She is a big fan favourite, as much when she races in places like London as when she is in Germany.
Yeah, and I think she really enjoys it. It comes across. It's not just about finishing first. She enjoys the whole experience. Great interviews as well. Very succinct in what isn't their mother tongue.
Well, there are 2 riders who are less than happy with the silver medal. Dong Jinji and Zhong Chanxi. They thought it was gold. They'll be glad to see the back of this velodrome, won't they? China having been denied the gold medal, being relegated in the Olympic final against Germany here in 2012.
Well, history repeats itself, and I think Chris was right. I mean, you'd think they'd have learned their lesson by now. It is a technical thing, but that's part of this event. It's all part of this event, and you make those mistakes, and it was a clear overlapping of wheels before they reached that changeover zone.
These 2 will take some beating over the next few years at 21 and 23 years of age. Young and fast, Daria Shmeleva and Anastasia Voinova, the new world champions. Post-race, silver turning to glorious gold for them. Beaten in the final by China last year. But now all smiles as they try on the rainbow jersey for size. Good range of countries, Chris, winning medals and winning gold medals on the opening day of these championships. I mean, many viewers, and we obviously enjoyed watching Great Britain a few years ago winning the vast majority of the events on the track. But in terms of the overall health of the sport, surely this shows that it's a good thing for track cycling. No, there are lots of nations.
I couldn't agree more, and I've had to be very careful in interviews in the last year about this to make sure it comes across correctly, because dominance for Great Britain, beautiful for us to watch, wonderful job for us to sit here and commentate on gold medals. But when you get one nation who just takes virtually all of the prizes, that's a lot for the sport to endure, and you'll see nations investing less and athletes not coming in because of it. So it's great to see it spread around for the health of cycling.
And the British pairing of Katie Marchant and Jess Varnish rode really well today. They were 5th fastest, but the double whammy for them of not only finding that it wasn't enough to get them a race for a medal, but also it meant that after all the opportunities for qualifying, this was the final one, and that they would not be able to take a place for Great Britain in Rio in the Olympic Games this summer. So a bitter pill to swallow, and a really tough day here. Perhaps in particular, as Victoria Pendleton was just saying, for Jess Varnish, who had disappointment in the Olympic Games, having been disqualified in the final 4 years ago. Now the national anthem of Russia. Russia rounding off the opening day of these championships by winning gold in the women's team sprint. Britain's best chances still to come over the days ahead.
And we'll be back out there for the men's team sprint medal ceremony as well, New Zealand having taken gold in that. But Victoria, I wanted to just ask you generally about your thoughts about this World Championships and what the British cycling team need to produce over the next 4 days.
I think, you know, with sport, there's always going to be highs and lows. I think you have to accept that when things don't go right, you just use it. You just try and bring the best out of yourself the next day. Go to bed, try and forget about it. It won't be easy. It won't be easy to go to sleep tonight. But there's always another day, and there's always another chance to ride. And the best thing about it is those girls are still so young. I didn't start track racing until I was in my early 20s. These girls have already got 3 or 4 years on me, or they've at least been in training in the case of Katie, and they've got plenty more Olympic chances ahead of them. I just hope they use it, push themselves, for example, and they'll get there.
We're going to see Becky James tomorrow, aren't we, in the Keirin? Now, obviously, she's had a very mixed season, but it's really important for her that she has a good performance tomorrow.
Absolutely. I think they need to just try and raise morale, move on. It's a new day. It's a new day tomorrow, and just focus on that, really, the opportunity.
And how good, Chris, is Shane Sutton and the rest of the team at remotivating them? Because obviously the momentum isn't necessarily with Britain after day one, but it might still be.
Well, basically you want to have a team around you who know when to talk to you and when not to talk to you. So some athletes respond well to an arm on the shoulder and a bit of, a gentle chat. Some respond to a bit of the, hairdryer treatment. Shane, for me, was great. I always knew with Shane, everything he told you was he didn't hide anything. He told you to your face, and he was open and honest. And I used that information, and I personally thrived on it. But some athletes, you need a bit more, maybe not tact, maybe that's too strong a word, but maybe just to be a bit more gentle when they're a little bit down. But I'm sure he will be, and I'm sure their own personal coaches will be trying to do all they can, as Vicky said, to raise morale and try and get them back on an even keel tomorrow.
You two have so much in common. I mean, not just in what you achieved, obviously, on the track, but in the way that you have given yourself new challenges. Because while Victoria is really risking life and limb, and it's incredibly brave what you're doing, riding in races and jumps races, you've been off in cars, and not just for fun.
No, well, it used to be for fun, and it's kind of grown legs a bit. And yeah, the aim is to do Le Mans 24 hours this year in June. So we're still waiting to finalise teams and driver lineup, but hopefully we'll have an announcement in the next week or so, or a couple of weeks. But yeah, we won the European Le Mans Series last year in the LMP3 category. And I love it. It's the same. I was just saying to Vicky earlier on, I said, are you enjoying it? And she said, absolutely love it. And that's the key thing. It's not so much, for me, it's not so much about replacing competition. It's just doing something that you absolutely love and you have a passion for it.
And having the reason to get up in the mornings, because what you love about it is getting in there in the yard and actually, mucking out, tacking up, grooming, all of that.
I know, it's crazy. I really underestimated how much I would miss being part of a team. And being at the yard with everybody there, working towards the same goal, gives me that feeling. And yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. And every day is a learning day.
Well, you are learning very fast, because I have to say I cannot believe the level of improvement from having watched you, 10, 12 days ago at Fakenham to today at Wincanton. I mean, different rider.
Oh, thanks.
But you really looked like, I think you went from being a passenger, half-decent passenger, to actually looking like you were driving the car, as it were.
Thank you.
Motoring analogy.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard. Going to Fakenham, first sort of race course, the jumps are bigger, the pressure's higher. There was 30-odd press in the paddock, and you're like, right.
And they're all looking at you.
They're all looking at me, waiting for me to fall off. And it's not unusual to fall off in jump racing, but it's quite special when, you know, you've got all that attention, you think, don't fall off, don't fall off. I'm going to try not to fall off, but I can't, you know, not.
And the difference today?
Today I got travelling, which I didn't manage to do at Fakenham. We got travelling together. Pasha de Polder was awesome, and yeah, he just really enjoyed it. 2.5 mile, the trip suited him, ground suited him, and yeah, we had a fantastic time out there.
Is there anything that riding here and riding bikes has taught you that you have been able to transfer?
I think more than anything, it's about coping with pressure. So when the chips are down, can you still deliver what you've been instructed to deliver? And that's probably the biggest part of it. You know, people say I haven't been riding a horse that long, but I've been at start line quite a few times with a lot of pressure on me. And it's just keeping calm, keeping the horse calm, and then doing what you've been told. So it's taking instruction under pressure.
Yeah, and being able to cope with all those lenses pointed at you. Well, all the lenses are pointed right now on the medals podium for our last ceremony of the evening. This for the men's team sprint. Simon.
Well, there are the new world champions from New Zealand, and what a stunning race that was, that final, particularly the last lap from Eddie Dawkins, and the president of the UCI there on the left-hand side, Brian Cookson, among the party that will dish out the medals and the flowers. And Germany well, they haven't gone backwards in a way, because they're still riding really strongly, but they were the world champions 3 years ago. They won the silver a couple of years back, then it was the bronze last year, and they've had to settle for bronze again. 5 times over the years, Germany have been the world champions in this discipline, traditionally very strong in the men's team sprint. Bronze this time for Joachim Eilers, who had a silver in the kilo last year. René Enders, who twice has finished with a bronze medal from the Olympic Games in this event, and Max Niederlag, a young rider at 22. And the Netherlands as well, another young team on the up, I think, the European champions. Beaten in the final on the day, Hugo Haak, Jeffrey Hoogland and Niels van Hoenendaal. And Haak at 24, the oldest of the three by 2 years. So the European champions, second on the world stage. Just lost it on that last lap, effectively. Or perhaps we should be more generous and say that it was Dawkins who won it on the last lap from New Zealand.
Interesting that the Dutch chose to ride 4 riders there. It's physically, you'd say it's a good idea to swap around. You have the option to use another rider in a different round, but you lose that sense of the event, that acclimatization to competition that you get. And I think it's a brave team that changes lineup during the competition.
What a consistent trio we're looking at here. World champions of 2 years ago, Commonwealth champions in Glasgow as well. Sam Webster, also the Commonwealth sprint champion, the individual match sprint. New Zealand strong across the board, actually. They've got a very solid, very strong track team. Got a good new velodrome as well, which was used, and Cambridge was used for the Track World Cup, one of the rounds of the Track World Cup during the winter. So track racing in a healthy state in New Zealand. Great Britain with the 6th fastest time in the qualifiers early today. Still just searching for that consistency and pace in the man 3 slot. They certainly don't have any problems with man 1, and man 2 seem to be going decently as well. But Callum Skinner at man 3, still just 22 years of age, still developing all the time.
It's a lot of flowers to hand out there on the...
And now the turn and the climb to the top step of the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of New Zealand.
Great ride from New Zealand to beat the Dutch in the final. 4 gold medals up for grabs on the opening day. 4 nations on the top step of the podium. Australia joining Spain, and New Zealand and Russia as winners on day 1 of these championships.
Great stuff, and many thanks to Sam Brotherton and to Chris Boardman. We will be on air tomorrow evening on BBC 2 from 7. We've talked about Becky James going in the Kieran. We'll also get to see Laura Trott tomorrow. And she now really, I guess, Victoria, is the headline act, is she, in the women's team?
I think she is. I mean, she's got a lot of pressure to perform here, but she's very reliable. She's a very reliable member of the team. You know she's going to bring back some gold.
She's got a lot on her plate, though. Tomorrow she's got the women's scratch race, which is not an Olympic event. No.
It's not, but it's part of the Omnium. So,
yeah.
You know, it's good for her to compete in that. She's got a justifiable chance of winning the gold medal. So, you know, you can see why she'd want to do it.
But a lot of people who have tickets tomorrow will have bought them in anticipation of seeing Sir Bradley Wiggins, and they will get to see him. Britain up against Italy, they will be in the semi-finals tomorrow. And he's just such a dude. He is. I'm sorry. And he is back into that team pursuit lineup. And it seems to me that everybody, the younger riders, the older riders, everybody just is loving having him back in the gang.
There's an aura about Bradley, and I think that the team, you could see the reaction when he first came back to the track in Manchester. Everybody walked a little bit taller. Everybody had a bit more confidence about the fact that Bradley was back in the fold, and you know, he brings so much to the team. As Heiko said in an interview earlier on, not least the fact that he's actually riding really well. You know, it's not as if he can waltz in there and get an automatic place in the team. He has to earn it. He has, and he's showing he's got great form.
Well, thanks very much to Chris Hoy. Thank you to Victoria Pendleton, and congratulations once again on your win today. She's still glowing. So just to remind you, tomorrow your highlights include the Kieran, that's Becky James. Laura Trott is going in the women's scratch, and we'll see Bradley Wiggins and co in the team pursuit semi-finals as Great Britain take on Italy. Thank you so much, because I realise that it is die-hard cycling fans who will have tuned into this Red Button coverage. Spread the word. We are here every evening. There's lots of backup on Red Button as well. Good coverage on 5 Live and, of course, online. We'll see you tomorrow on BBC 2 at 7. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.